For the attendees that are joining us, this is the Danville Town Council meeting and it will begin shortly.
Alrighty, it is 5 o'clock. I would like to call this meeting to order. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening for the Danville Town Council regular meeting of the Tuesday, April 6, 2021 Town Council. Marie, would you mind taking the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Fong.
Here.
Councilmember Stepper.
Here.
Councilmember Storer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Arnerich.
Here.
And Mayor Morgan.
I am here.
And I've confirmed that all council members are present.
All council members are present, and I would like to ask Marie if there's any announcements.
Yes, I am Danville City Clerk Marie Senseri, and we are also joined by Town Manager Joe Calabrigo and City Attorney Rob Ewing, as well as others who will be presenting this evening. This meeting is being held by teleconference only on Zoom, and a recording of this meeting, as well as any written public comments, will be made available on the town website. To provide live comments during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. When the mayor opens up the item to public comment, at that time, raise your hand. Your name will be announced and your audio will be enabled. You are asked to state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If any hands are raised, I'm going to go ahead and lower them, and you can raise them at the time that the mayor opens the item for public comment.
Thank you for that announcement. Well, we have some exciting news this evening. Our library, as you know, has been closed due to the shelter in place. And we've been doing currently just curbside. And now on April 26th, we're actually going to be able to step foot back into our libraries again. So this evening, we do have a special guest, as I mentioned. Our senior library manager, Sang Lovan, is here this evening, and I would love to ask her to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan. Please place your hands over your heart and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for one nation for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the next item, which is item number 3. And we'll look forward to seeing you when we do the proclamation. Are there any on item number 3 are changes to the order of the agenda? Are there any changes to the order of the agenda this evening?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I don't see any changes as well. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 4, which is for the good of the town. The item that is the good of the town is the opportunity for members of the public to address the town council on a topic that is not on this evening's agenda. However, understand that we as a council cannot discuss or take action on any of these topics that are discussed under the good of the town, although staff or we may follow up on that. I'd also like to go ahead and open this up to the public. We are also able to receive letters up until 11 o'clock, the day of the meeting. I understand that we have received some emails to us, and I've had the opportunity to read them, as well as I'm assuming that the rest of the council has. If not, I will give you all a moment to do so. If not, let's go ahead and move on to anybody else that's in attendance today that would like to address the council for under the good of the town. As Marie mentioned, just raise your hand. She will call on you. You'll have 3 minutes to address the council. And Marie, is there anybody that would wish to address us under the good of the town this evening?
Yes, there are a number of individuals who have raised their hand. But prior to going to that, I wanted to just indicate the names of the individuals who sent email comments so that we can confirm that they were received and forwarded to the town council.
Okay.
Julia Pren, Prehn, Christina Riley, and Christina Galvin So submitted email comments.
All right, Christina, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And the first individual that we are going to have speak under public comment is Douglas. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start the timer.
Good evening, Douglas, and welcome to the town council meeting. Would you like to go ahead and speak? Once Marie turns on the timer, we'll go ahead and have you speak.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members and staff people. My name is Douglas Leach, and I'm a resident of Danville, where I have lived with my family for over 40 years. I do appreciate Danville's record of safety, but I am deeply concerned with racial disparities in policing, especially with regards to deadly use of force. I fear that Danville's police have the same problems with racial inequities in policing that have led to our country's lengthy and still growing list of police killings of Black people, many of them unarmed, like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Black Lives Matter. I'm calling on Danville's town council to take action to ensure justice for Tyrell Wilson, a Black man who was shot in the head by a Danville police officer on March 11th and later died. The council must ensure that this shooting is fully and independently investigated and must keep its citizens apprised of the investigation's progress and conclusions. The city must be fully transparent. Any available video should be released immediately, and the results of the investigation must be made public. The council must take actions to ensure that such a shooting never occurs again. Beyond the actions and possible mistakes of a single officer, Danville must ensure that it has a non-violent, non-police response to issues of mental illness. This is best done in conjunction with the county, which is developing a proposal to provide such services so we don't need to rely on police confronting mental health episodes with lethal weapons. It must also ensure that all people of color who work or live in Danville or visit or conduct business here can expect the same standards of safety and public protection that others enjoy. I urge the town to invest in public safety funding by funding non-police mental health response, housing programs, and services for our most marginalized, while putting racial equity and justice in reinvestment at the forefront of town planning. Thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate your comments. Thank you. Marie?
Yes. The next individual is Catherine Wally.
Okay, Catherine, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening with us. The same applies. We have 3 minutes, please, and you may begin at any time.
Wonderful. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Hi, my name is Catherine Wally, and I'm a resident of Walnut Creek. My pronouns are she, her. I was deeply disturbed to learn that Tyrell Wilson, a member of the Danville community who was living with a mental illness, was fatally shot in the face by the Danville police. His life mattered, and amidst the incomparable facets of his life and death is the way in which this loss falls into a troubling pattern when it comes to the ways in which people of color living with a mental illness are met with lethal force in encounters with law enforcement across our county. In December, Angela Quinto, a young Filipino-American, had his life senselessly taken when his family called the Antioch police for support during a mental health crisis. I live in Walnut Creek, where Miles Hall, a young Black community member, was shot outside his home by the Walnut Creek Police Department after his family contacted the police for assistance in helping him safely through the mental health episode he was experiencing. There must be justice, full transparency, and accountability in the death of Tyrell Wilson. All body camera and intersection footage should be immediately released, and there must be a transparent investigation, independent as an investigation, into the actions of Officer Hall, who also shot and killed Laudemir Arboleda, a Filipino-American who was experiencing a mental health crisis when he was killed. Additionally important, I urge this council to view his death not as an isolated incident, but as part of a larger pattern resulting from systemic problems that demand an array of systemic solutions. If not, this pattern is destined to repeat itself. I invite this council and the Danville community at large to familiarize themselves with and throw their unequivocal support towards the countywide effort to establish a 24/7 non-police behavioral health crisis response pilot program. Our city has led this effort because Miles's family and community chose to honor Miles by advocating for systemic change. Additionally, Assemblymember Bauer Cahan has introduced new legislation calling for a new 3-digit phone line, 988, for suicide prevention and immediate localized emergency response for individuals in a mental health crisis by trained mental health professionals. I urge the Danville Town Council and residents alike to submit petition letters in support of this legislation before the deadline of noon this Friday to help ensure that the Miles Hall Lifeline Act gets through committee in the California legislature. Mayor Wilkes signed an official letter on behalf of the city of Walnut Creek, and I implore you to do the same. We won't be able to bring back Tyrell or Lautimer or Angelo or Miles, but our cities can avert further needless loss of life and trauma by striving for broader reaching systemic changes in the pursuit of becoming places that are safer for all members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate that. Marie, do we have anybody else?
Yes, one moment. The next individual is Katie Mahon.
All right, Katie, are you with us this evening? Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Katie, we can. Thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening. My name is Katie Mann. As I'm sure you know, SafeWise released its Safest Cities report again last week. And again, Danville made the top of the list. I'm sure that all of you take pride in this. You are the leaders of the safest city in California. You might be surprised to hear that I, a Danville homeowner, wrote to SafeWise shortly before this year's report was released. I asked them not to put Danville at the top of their list. I told them that Danville is not a safe place for all members of our community. In my email, I let them know specifically about the shooting deaths of Tyrell Wilson and Lautimer Abuelita at the hands of Danville police officers. I am not sure if any of you attended the vigil and march in honor of Tyrell. I was at the vigil and was also at today's press conference and was able to hear Tyrell's mother and father speak. Tyrell's father spoke about the need for transparency in the investigation into his son's death. I echo his pleas tonight. I ask that you, the leaders of the town of Danville, demand that the Sheriff's Department release body camera and other video footage immediately. I also do not believe that the Sheriff's Department can handle this investigation without bias. I ask that you demand that the investigation be moved to either the State Attorney General's office or another independent oversight committee. Tyrell's parents told us that Andrew Hall has got to go. I echo their pleas tonight. Andrew Hall has killed 2 men of color in less than 2.5 years while wearing the badge of the Danville Police Department. I ask that you, the leaders of the town of Danville, call for the immediate termination of Andrew Hall's employment with the Sheriff's Department. I ask that he be stripped of his pension. I ask that you look closely at the city's contract with the Sheriff's Department. I ask that you ask many questions about their hiring of police officers with bad reputations and prior incidents of excessive use of force. Finally, with tears in their eyes, Tyrell's mother and father spoke about how much they loved their son. I loved my son to death, his father said. His mother spoke about choosing her son's name, picking Tyrell because it means warrior. Her voice broke as she spoke of her son in the present and then the past tense. I could not help but think of my own children, who are 2 and 4 and who are the loves of my life. I ask that you, the leaders of the town of Danville, put yourself in Tyrell's parents' shoes for 1 minute and imagine what a terrible place that must be right now. In closing, I ask that you, the leaders of the town of Danville, rethink that SafeWise report. Instead of thinking yourselves as the leaders of the safest town in California, I encourage you to instead think of yourself as the leaders of a town where the police department has killed 2 men in 2.5 years. And I ask you to pledge to do everything in your power to make sure this never happens again. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate your comments. Marie?
Yes. The next individual is Kristen Chambers.
Good evening, Kristen. Are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. I can't figure out how to turn on my camera. Hi, my name is Kristen Chambers. I attend Danville Congregational Church. I live right across the street in Alamo, and I do lots of my life activities in Danville. I have been examining I also am here to speak about the shooting of Tyrell Wilson and to express my great sorrow and concern about the shooting. I have been looking in vain on the city's website, trying to find acknowledgement of the shooting there. And I am concerned that I don't see anything on the website about it. The city council's silence on this topic is disrespectful and does not reflect Danville's concern about its residents' health, safety, and well-being. I know that you feel responsible for overseeing the actions of the Danville Police Department. Just because the police services are provided through contract with the county sheriff doesn't absolve the city council of its oversight responsibilities. I encourage you, as the other speakers have, to please ensure that the shooting is fully and independently investigated. Like other speakers, I have grave concerns about the ability of the county sheriff to investigate actions of their own officers. The council must ensure that the city is kept abreast of the investigation, and any video must be immediately released. Of course, most importantly, the city council must take action to ensure that such a shooting never happens again. This may require several changes. The city will need to determine if Officer Hall can be trusted with citizens' lives. We've already heard from some citizens who cannot find it in their hearts to trust Officer Hall. The investigation will shed light onto this. But beyond the actions and possible mistakes of a single officer, like others, I encourage the council to ensure that we find a way to respond to mental health crises that doesn't involve the police and doesn't involve a gun. I applaud the Miles Hall Foundation for working with the county to find another way, and I encourage the Danville City Council to join the efforts of the county in providing these kinds of mental health services. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Maria, is there anybody else?
Yes. The next individual is Veronica Benjamin.
Good evening, Veronica. Veronica, are you with us?
Yes, hello, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
So I would just like to say hello again to the Honorable Mayor and Town Council members. I'm just voicing my support with all of the other city members and our community members that you've heard from. I would like to just go a little off script at this moment and just share that every day I have to see the bench where Tyrell used to sleep, and his absence is deeply disturbing because I used to think he was at peace there. And I thought, well, it's fine. He's not bothering anyone. Let him just live in peace and stay there. And I have such a pain in my heart that I didn't maybe do more to connect him with the very disparate mental health services that our county provides, or try to get him to a safe place because he was not safe there. So as Katie also mentioned, that this is not really a safe place for everyone, and he should very much still be alive today. It was very painful to attend the press conference today and listen to his mother, as others have shared. And so at this moment, I would just like to echo the calls to you for you to do everything in your power to make sure that there's a transparent investigation, that Officer Hall is removed. So whether, I know that's not in your power, but we implore you to put pressure on the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office, as well as the DA, for a transparent investigation, and that they release the footage much sooner than the September 7th deadline that I have been informed of. I also implore you to support legislation such as AB 17, which would allow California to join the 11 other states that have some legislation in place to disqualify police officers for employment across the board. Because we have also heard news that Andrew Hall might be thinking of transferring to another jurisdiction, and we don't want another community to suffer his incompetence. You know, excuse my language, but I think that's really, really the case. And finally, in closing, I would just like to invite all of you town council members, as well as members of the public, to a memorial that will be held this Sunday in front of our beautiful town library at 11 a.m. So it's this Sunday, the 11th at 11 a.m. We're still putting the event together, but we want to keep this in the community consciousness, and we're holding you all accountable for using everything in your power to pursue a transparent investigation and help get justice for these families. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing the event with us. We appreciate that as well. Marie.
Okay, the next individual is Michelle Lucker.
Yes.
Michelle?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Michelle Luker, and I have lived in Danville with my husband and 2 children since 2016. My mother and stepfather have lived in Danville since 2001, and my siblings and I have all settled here with our families. My father is a former lieutenant with the San Francisco Police Department. After serving 30 years with the department, he retired as the lieutenant in charge of homicide. I grew up with the utmost respect for law enforcement and a deep understanding of the sacrifices made by law enforcement families. I remember the day Laudamir Arboleda was killed in downtown Danville by a police officer. Chief Shields held a press conference shortly after on the same day and announced that Laudamir had driven straight at one of his officers, who we would later learn was Andrew Hall. I remember questioning this statement as the media picture showed a slew of bullet holes in the windshield, and I wondered how an officer could shoot that many shots while a car was driving straight at him. I consulted with my father, who advised me that chiefs of police do not make statements that quickly unless it is cut and dry, and I should expect to see body cam footage released to back up these statements. The Contra Costa Sheriff's Department would end up waiting over an entire year to release the footage. I can still remember the utter shock I felt when I viewed the footage in December of 2019. Yes, Laudamir was trying to evade the police, but he was not driving straight at Officer Hall, nor was Officer Hall in danger. Andrew Hall clearly came from the side and manufactured the danger and immediately began to unload his gun on a moving vehicle in crowded downtown Danville. I would learn Laudamir was shot 9 times. I immediately sent the video to my father. He was disturbed by Chief Shields' defense of this killing and the lack of action by the Sheriff's Department, the Town Council, and the DA. Fast forward to March 2021, and here we are again. Andrew Hall has killed another citizen, Tyrell Wilson, in the name of self-defense. The newly released cell phone footage shows that once again, Andrew Hall has manufactured the danger in order to justify the murder of another man of color. He clearly closes the gap between him and Tyrell and doesn't allow any time for de-escalation before shooting Tyrell in the face. The Danville police immediately released a still photo of Tyrell with a knife and told the public that Tyrell was aggressive in rushing Andrew Hall. As of last night, we all now know that is a lie. I am asking you all as the elected representatives of this town to pressure the Sheriff's Department to fire Andrew Hall and strip him of his post certification. In over 30 years of service, my father never fired his service weapon. I think we can all agree that officers in major cities face far more dangerous situations. The citizens of this town deserve transparency. Plenty of body cam footage is released to the public while investigations are ongoing. I ask that tonight you please address what you are going to do about an officer that in 2.5 years has killed 2 people in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Marie?
Yes, the next individual is Human Hodgett.
Good evening, Human. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for this opportunity to allowing me to speak with you. Echoing what we have heard from a number of citizens of Danville about their concern about over what's happened in our community, and given everything else that's going on in around the country, this raises all of our concerns over this. While I certainly support every measure and every request that my fellow citizens have brought on in terms of accountability, in terms of transparency, in terms of independent investigation. I think I also want to emphasize that we need action from this council as soon as possible. And that action includes putting this item on the agenda, that this thing needs to be discussed, needs to be understood, and needs to be dealt with, not be something that just gets put on the back burner based on investigations. I'll let the investigations take place and on their due course and let that happen, but that should not prevent us from taking measures and actions immediately. And one of those actions that I am demanding is to have to have our chief attend the next meeting and describe what kind of training has been in place. How are the current officers trained in de-escalation and in terms of addressing racial biases that are within all of us as we are human beings? But that has to be number one for our officers that are there to protect citizens and also carry weapons that can kill citizens. So that is my demand, that this item is on the agenda of this town council. The fact that it is not on the agenda today is disrespectful of all the members of this community. And that is the reason why I'm speaking up to have this heard immediately. This is not just a comment. This is a demand for action. And if you don't take action, then it is our turn to take action by removing those out of office who cannot serve their community.
Mr. Human, I really appreciate your comments, but I think that right now you are taking it to a different level. And I'd appreciate that you'd stay on topic, please. If that's what you would like to speak to us about, we're willing to listen, but we will not have you attack us like that. So are you done with your statements?
My statement is complete.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here this evening. Marie, is there anybody else?
Yes, the next individual is Lori Wolf.
Lori, thank you for being here this evening with us. Lori?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Lori, we can. Welcome.
Hi, thank you to the town council members, and I also want to thank all the community members that are speaking on this very concerning issue. My name is Lori Wolf. I've been a Danville resident since 1997. Like the other commenters here, I'm extremely saddened and disturbed by the fatal shooting of Tyrell Wilson on March 11th by Andrew Hall. I understand Officer Hall is the same officer who shot Latimer Arboleda in 2018 under circumstances many feel were unjustified. 2 fatal shootings by one officer in under 3 years, who both were also men of color and suffering from mental illness, is deeply concerning. I'm asking for a transparent investigation and release of body cam and the intersection videos as soon as possible. I'm also asking that Andrew Hall is not only fired, but has his police certification revoked so that he can't transfer and be in a position of authority anywhere with a gun. I'd also like to know how the Danville Town Council will help make sure fatal incidents like this don't happen here and that this officer is not permitted to work elsewhere. We cannot sweep this under the rug. I also support some of the legislation that was mentioned here, AB 988, which would be a mental health crisis line, which is being sponsored by Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, our assembly person, and also AB 17 that was mentioned here earlier. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lori, for being here this evening. We appreciate your comments. Marie?
Okay. The next individual is Neda Athanasios.
Neda, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi, welcome.
Good evening, City Council members. I'm here to echo the words of the rest of the speakers here today. My name is Netta Athanasios. I am a Danville resident. In light of the shooting deaths of 2 mentally ill people of color in our town, I urge you as the town council to do everything in your power to do the following. 1, encourage a transparent investigation, beginning with the immediate release of all footage. 2, put pressure on the Contra Costa County Sheriff to fire and decertify Officer Andrew Hall and prevent his transfer elsewhere. 3, let us know what you as the town council are doing to address police violence, racial inequality, and mental health services in Danville. These are important issues for our entire community and require urgent response. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate them as well. Marie?
Yes, one moment. The next individual is Ria Chatre. And I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly.
Ria, are you?
No. Yes, thank you. That's my daughter's name. It's actually Reena, Reena Chatre.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I won't be speaking as eloquently as everybody before me, but I am here to echo all of the statements before me regarding the unfortunate shooting of Tyrell Wilson a month ago. I am deeply disturbed as a person of color living in Danville. When I chose to live in Danville 8 years ago, it was not only for its beauty, but for its safety. I have 2 children who have already experienced racism in their education, in the education system. I grew up, I was born and raised in the United States, and I am deeply disturbed that 30 years after I have been raised here, there are those that are still racist to minorities. Although I am not Black, my son is and daughter are persons of color, and I am scared for them under the safety of the Danville Police Department. I know it's not to the extent of what happened to Tyrell, but that is my bias and personal belief based on the recent incident and the one 2 years ago. I urge the responsible parties to release the body cam footage, to fire Andrew Hall, and all the other requests that came before in statements. I just want to say that I do not normally participate in these types of forums, but I was deeply disturbed. I live very close to the Sycamore Park and Ride, and until last night, had a level of concern, but once the video footage was released, it took it to a whole new level. I don't even know what to say. I don't know why all of the information provided to us before doesn't add up to what was seen. There was no threat. There was no going towards the officer. And as an officer who has been trained to serve and protect the community, if somebody is so fearful for their life in that type of situation, this is not the job for them in any jurisdiction whatsoever. I do not want someone like that protecting this community if they're only protecting those that look like them. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Marie?
Yes, the next individual is Brennan McKay.
Good evening, Brennan.
We're going to take Kelly Ryan first.
Okay. All right. Kelly,
Kelly
are
Ryan.
you?
Hi.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for allowing us this time to speak. I am going to echo the same concerns that were raised before. I've lived now in Danville for 17 years. The shooting of Latimer, Arbolado 2 years ago, 3 now, deeply upset me. The recent shooting of Tyrell Wilson is equally unacceptable. I don't know what to say about this. I don't feel safe. I don't feel that the police have our best interests at heart here. And I want to know that the town council, I wonder where people's hearts and minds are on this. Why is this continuing to happen? Having heard from the families, this is heartbreaking. They've lost sons that were suffering from mental illness. And it is deeply disturbing to me that that is the situation, that is our response as a community when we have people at risk. It is deeply upsetting to me that these are men of color and this is the end result for them. It is just unacceptable. I want to see transparency. I want to see accountability. Andrew Hall needs to be fired. He needs to be decertified. He should not be serving in our jurisdiction or any jurisdiction. And the fact that it's even a subject of debate, I question. I find it deeply disturbing that there's a strong disconnect between the public, communication and then what is seen in the videos. That is something the town council cannot stand for in our force that is supposed to protect our citizens. That is unacceptable. I want something done. I want accountability, as I said, and transparency, but I want action. And nothing was done 3 years ago. That is wrong and shameful. Now is the time for action. And you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to these two men who were killed in our town, and you have a responsibility to your citizens. So I want to see action. I thank you for your time. I also encourage you to look at this 8 can't wait. This is a policies that you could ask our police to implement tomorrow. Some of the things that they say in there are, these reduce police killings by 72%. If we don't shoot at moving vehicles, Latimer Aurelito would be alive, right? If we require escalation, we require warnings before shooting, Tyrell Wilson would be alive. These things need to be done and taken care of, and I expect Danville Council to do something tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for your comments. Marie?
Okay. The next individual is Brennan McKay.
Good evening, Brennan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Brennan McKay. I'm a graduate of San Ramon Valley High School, class of 2015, living in Walnut Creek. I'd like to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. I joined the calls for full transparency from the sheriff and the town council regarding all body cam and traffic footage of the fatal shooting of Tyrell Wilson. I think that the sheer number of comments that are occurring at this town council meeting shows that there is a passion within our community for change to occur. I understand the concerns as well that many people have brought up about the ability of the sheriff to conduct an impartial oversight of its own officers. So I also ask that the town council support an independent investigation. I also ask that the members of the town council themselves speak up and use your positions of power to implement change on the issue of police violence in Danville. It was Martin Luther King Jr. who said that the great stumbling block in gaining racial equality is not the KKK member, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice. In order to make Danville live up to its title of safest place to live, concrete actions must be taken by the members of the town council to not only make sure that we can gain justice for Tyrell Wilson and Latimer Arboleda, but to also ensure that Danville's community of color feels safe just living and existing in their own communities. I'd like to end by saying that Black Lives Matter, and I would hope that all the members of the town council can say that as well.
Thank you for your comments. Marie.
Okay. The next individual is Samira Wajwadi.
All right, Samira, are you available? Are you there?
Hi. Yes, I'm very available.
Hello, Samira. How are you?
I am good, Renee. I am good. I just wanted to come out here and say that there needs to be action taken against the Tyrell Wilson case. Officer Andrew Hall is an immediate threat towards people of color in this community, San Ramon and Danville alike. I think that it is shameful that we even let him slide during the Arboleta case. And I think that as people who are local city politicians, it is important that you understand the safety of all residents, not just white residents, not just private property, but all residents. And it's important to note and understand your positions, your individual positions in society, and how those positions can affect how the town functions. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that I think that this is how I think, and I hope it doesn't play out like this, that the Danville City Council and the Danville Police Department are going to bank on having things just play out, have people be angry for a little bit, and then everything else die down, and you guys can be like, whew, we'll forget about it. We do not want this to happen. Complacency of our city officials is something that goes wrong. This is how politicians lose their seats. This is how you become on the wrong side of history. And I know, Renee, that you don't want to hear that, because I know Human also said that, but this is something that you need to understand and hear, because being a city official is about bringing on the heat and actually understanding that people are angry, people are passionate, and people have emotions right now that are extremely strong. So you guys just need to really step up and take into consideration your brown and black community members. Thank you.
Marie.
Yes. The next individual, before I announce that name, I just want to say that if you have already spoken and your hand is raised, you do not get another 3 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand. So if you have already spoken, thank you for lowering your hand. Okay, so Natasha Burma is next.
Good evening, Natasha.
Hi, hello. This is Natasha Verma. Thank you for listening, and good evening to the council members. So I was at the press conference today and briefly met Tyrell Wilson's family, his mother, his father, his extended relatives stood in support. This was clearly a family who loved their son very much. This was, the father was a former police officer, and you know, it's very personal now, not only because this has happened in our town, but because these are you know, people that are feeling pain right now that I can only imagine. Our family moved here only very recently.
I'm sorry, Natasha, we can't hear you right now. Natasha, are you there? Marie?
Okay, so if we see Natasha return, I'll let you know. The next individual is Joan Benjamin. Joan, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Joan. Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you for
Okay,
joining us.
Okay, I've been having some sound troubles here, so.
Well, you're doing great now, so we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the town council for having this meeting and for providing a forum to listen, you guys to listen. I've lived in Danville since 1986, and I came here because I really like the town, and I've always thought the town council has done a very good job.
Well, thank you.
I'm here also because of the Tyrell Wilson and Arboleda incident shootings. And what I'm most concerned about as I sat here trying to gather my thoughts was the fact that that Andrew Hall, Officer Hall, had shot Mr. Arboleda in 2018. And I viewed that video of that incident with the car. And it was clear from viewing that incident that Officer Hall jumped in front of Mr. Arboleda's car and shot him to death. However, Officer Hall was kept on as an employee. I just find this upsetting, disheartening, and it has caused me to not trust the police around here. It's really undermined that a lot. And so I'm asking the town council to really take action in terms of you're either going to have to change your relationship with the sheriff's department, but Officer Hall must be fired. He must be decertified. I don't even think he should be allowed to carry a gun because he has demonstrated on multiple occasions that he is not responsible enough to handle one, much less be a peace officer. So that's really the crux of why I'm here. And I would like to see the town council, police can perform wonderful services for all of us. But if they're shooting people and then lying about it, that does not serve any of us well at all. So that's really the crux of what I'm saying. If you have an officer that shoots someone, that can be a one bad apple. But this was a system. This is much, much worse. So please take this to heart and please take some action. And once again, though, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you for joining us this evening. Marie.
Okay, the next individual is identified by Donna.
Good evening, Donna. Are you there?
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Donna. Would you mind stating your first and last name for the record, please?
Oh, yes. Sorry. My name is Donna Fatuhi, and I'm a Danville resident.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for hosting this Danville Council. I basically just wanted to echo the sentiment that Andrew Hall should be removed from the force before he murders another person. But I also would like to make it clear that that is not enough because we have been here before. He should have been removed in 2018, the first time that this occurred. And I think Danville Council should be really ashamed that they allowed Andrew Hall to remain on the force while the investigation is still pending and with the prior knowledge of what happened in 2018. I understand and acknowledge that this decision is not entirely dependent on council, but council should also prioritize the safety of the community. That is why the council was elected, and that is your duty to the people of Danville. Now, I would ask that it is your time to act. Please do not make the same mistake that council members in 2018 made. Action can involve anything from pressuring Danville Police Department to remove Andrew Hall, pressuring Sheriff Livingston to remove Andrew Hall, and not accepting any of his terms for transfer. If we know that Danville council members are actually speaking out for the community members and are aware that this is something that should not have happened, then we ask that you please, please, please demand his decertification as a police officer. We need to strip Andrew Hall of the ability to handle a deadly weapon ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. We really appreciate your comments as well. Marie.
Okay. The next individual is Kayla Eaton.
Good evening, Kayla.
And Kayla, you'll need to unmute yourself.
We still can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay, Kayla, I don't hear you. Are you speaking? I don't know if we got you in there. Are you still on mute, perhaps?
Okay, she has departed.
Okay.
So The last individual that we have back is Natasha Verma, who was disconnected earlier.
Oh, Natasha, great. Thank you for coming back. Yeah, great technology, right? We're all dealing with that lately. So welcome back.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Thank you to Marie also. So I'm not sure where I was cut off. And could someone tell me what you last heard? I don't want to be repetitive.
I have to be honest with you. I just know that you were about 2 minutes into your speech of what you were telling us. So if that helps you, that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Like you were almost done, but you weren't quite done. So.
Okay, great. So I'll get to the point of I'm extremely concerned for the safety of the community. I'm extremely concerned for why a further inquiry was not done into the 2018 shooting of I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. My point is that I would like Danville, the town of Danville, to make a direct inquiry into the Contra Costa Sheriff's Office and hold them accountable for this ongoing negligence, and hold a transparent, a fully transparent investigation that includes releasing the body cam footage and all other footage of the area where Tyrell Wilson was shot, as soon as possible without delay. I believe had the footage been released in 2018 at an appropriate time, we wouldn't all be here talking about this today. Tyrell would still be alive. So please continue with this investigation, take swift action on this, and hold the sheriff's office accountable by all means. I have young children. I have family members with mental illness. I have family members of color. I have family members who have been unhoused, and on all levels, I just deeply worry for the safety of this town, and really implore you all to do your very best to remain transparent and let us know exactly what has been discussed with the sheriff's office. And please consider passing the bill. I believe there's a bill being considered for the ability to decertify and ensure that Officer Andrew Hall is never permitted to be a police officer anywhere. He should not be allowed to transfer. He should not be able to have a firearm of any kind. He is a walking liability and danger to our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Natasha. We appreciate that. Marie?
Yes. Okay. Kayla Eaton is going to, she was going to try again, but okay, she's trying.
Okay, Kayla, we'll wait a little bit longer, see if we can get you in there.
Hello?
Oh, great. There you are, Kayla. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so sorry about that. Hello,
That's
Mayor,
okay.
council members, and staff. My name is Kayla Eaton. I grew up in Danville and graduated from San Ramon Valley in 2012. I also grew up near the Sycamore Valley Park and Ride. I'm calling today, like many other of my fellow community members, because I am just disgusted at what has happened. Officer Andrew Hall, as you know, has murdered Tyrell Wilson. Tyrell Wilson was a community member and his life mattered. It's my understanding that he was experiencing homelessness, was living with some mental illness. His life still mattered, and he should be here today. I was reading that there have been 2 officer shootings in Danville since 2001. Those 2 shootings that resulted in 2 individuals taken from this earth was at the hands of Officer Andrew Hall within the past 2 years. And I urge you, our elected officials, to make this a top priority. And I think the volume of public comments show you that this is a priority to your constituents and to our community. I ask that there's a transparent investigation into the shooting, because we will be here listening and showing up. I ask that the body camera footage is released and that you all pressure the Contra Costa Sheriff to remove Officer Hall from the Danville Police Department and that he has his police certification revoked. And on top of that, support AB 988. And also ask ourselves, what are we doing to address police brutality? And what are we doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again? How are we expanding mental health services and supporting our unsheltered neighbors? Because at the end of the day, we have failed. We failed a community member, and it resulted in his life being taken. And that should be so, so deeply disturbing to every single individual here. But let's take that and let's take action to make sure that this doesn't happen again and that we are better supporting our community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla, for those comments. We appreciate that. Marie.
Okay, that looks like all we have for good of the town.
Well, I just wanted to take a moment to say, you know, as I've mentioned in the beginning of this part of the agenda, it's under the good of the town, and therefore the council cannot address anything that's been brought up under the good of the town since it's not on the agenda. I'd also like to tell you that it's been 3 weeks since our last town council meeting, but I assure you, we have not been sitting idle, none of us. I have already submitted a support letter for AB 988, and it has been signed by the entire council. The community dialogue is ongoing regarding our potential options for ways to improve access to mental health services. We are working on that. Also, please rest assured that the town supports full transparency in the ongoing investigation and sharing of information as it becomes available and as required by law in the officer-involved shooting. The Danville Police Department and the Office of the Sheriff continue to work with the District Attorney's Office for full investigation of this incident. We are waiting to hear. I would like to also address another incident, which was a recent hate crime in our country. We are deeply saddened by the increase of harassment and discrimination as it's directed toward members of the Asian Pacific, American Pacific Islander community. The Danville Town Council strongly condemns this conduct and assures our Asian American Pacific Islander neighbors they have our fullest empathy and our support. The town of Danville is committed to supporting members of our community, and we will continue our efforts to ensure everyone is treated with respect and dignity. In closing, we are always available to our community to hear from you, whether you'd like to make a comment, you have a question, or you would like to give us some information that you feel would be a good information for the community and something that we can be doing differently. We are here for you. Our contact information for each and every one of us is located on the Danville website. And if you have a pen or paper or you're typing this down, it's danville.ca.gov. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. And I'd like to assure you once again that we are doing everything that we can. So please rest assured with that. I'd like to go ahead and move on now to item number 5, which is our presentations and proclamations. And this evening, as you know, the library has been closed, and it has been closed now due to the shelter in place. At one point or the other, it's now been given curbside, and people have been able to check out books and utilize the library on a curbside basis. I should say October. I'm already in October. My gosh, the year's gone by fast for me. April 26th, we will be opening the library back open again, and people will be able to step foot back into the library again. And we'd like to welcome Sang Loven, our senior library manager, is here this evening. And Sang, welcome. And I'd like to go ahead and read this proclamation, if you don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and put my glasses on so I can see as well. Whereas libraries of all types are the heart of their towns, cities, and schools, serving their communities as accessible, inclusive places that foster a sense of belonging. And whereas for people lacking reliable broadband at home, libraries provide access to computers, printing, and Wi-Fi, even checking out internet hotspots. And whereas the time of crisis, libraries play an invaluable role in supporting their communities, both in person and virtually. And whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to explore their new worlds and become their best selves through the access to technology, multimedia content, and educational programs. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas national libraries, librarians, and library staff are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Danville Town Council does hereby declare National Library Week, and how appropriate the timing, right? April 4th through 10th, 2021. And during this week for the town of Danville encourages all residents to visit the library online to access free resources and services and in person beginning on April 26th. It is here whereof we have on to set our hands, if I can get those last few words out, the 6th day of April, 2021, and a proclamation for National Library Week. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much and good evening, Mayor Morgan and Town Council members. Many thanks for taking the time during tonight's meeting to recognize National Library Week. This past year has been a year where we've all had to pivot, adapt, and rise to new challenges, and our library is no different. I'm very proud that on June 15th of last year, the Danville Library, along with 23 other Contra Costa County libraries, were one of the first libraries to reopen for front door service in the Bay Area. The library was able to provide critical services to adult learners, individual researchers, students doing virtual learning, and readers of all ages. The library provided access to all our collections, opened up phone lines, chat services, and email communications so staff can continue to provide reference services. We expanded downloadable audio ebook collections, transitioned library programs of all ages to the online platforms, and safely launched many new services to support our patrons, including lendable hotspots, free printing, and personalized picks. Last December, we were thrilled the library was able to remain open during the second stay-at-home order, as Contra Costa County's health official recognized public libraries as an essential service for all residents. In just a few weeks, as you mentioned, Mayor Morgan, on April 26th, I'm happy to announce that the Danville Library will be moving beyond front door service and inviting the public back inside the library. Although things will look a little different and it'll be a gradual reopening with limited services and health and safety protocols in place, we're excited to move forward and welcome everyone back to the Danville Library. Thank you to the town of Danville, the Danville Library Endowment, Danville Library Foundation, and all of our patrons for supporting library hours so that we can provide these critical services to local students, families, and all residents during a very extraordinary year. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and we hope to see you soon at the Danville Library.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate that. Karen.
Saying we're so glad that you've been here so long. You've made such a difference in our community. I appreciate that very, very much. As people are welcome back down to the library, I would urge you to have a section with respect to mental health, or at least librarians who know where to direct these people who have cared so deeply and spoken to all of us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Stepper. And we have been working with Contra Costa County Health Services and many services throughout the county to pay special attention to our residents and our patrons that may be suffering from mental health illnesses or may need other attention.
I was thinking of the resources, but that's a good answer too. Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Well, thank you so much for being here this evening. And once again, we look forward to April 26th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
The consent calendar is next on our agenda. It's item number 6, and the consent is routine in nature and can be acted upon in one motion. I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's anybody on the council that would like to remove an item from the consent calendar. All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and ask, and even the public. Is there anybody in the public that would like to remove items 6.1 through 6.3? Marie?
There are no requests.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council.
Motion to move.
Okay.
Motion to accept.
Robert, and a second by Karen Stepper. And a roll call, please.
Okay. Councilmember Fong,
Aye.
Councilmember Stepper,
Aye.
Councilmember Storer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
The consent calendar was approved unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item that we look forward to on our first meeting of the month would be our town manager's report, which is item 7.1. And it is obviously going to be presented by our town manager, Joe Calabrigo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the Town Council. If you'll permit me, I would just like to add to the comments that the mayor made in response to the speakers that we heard this evening under For the Good of the Town to start off this evening. I would want to reassure the members of our community that the goal of offering police services, the goal of our police department here is to work in partnership with our community to protect our residents, to protect their property, to protect their rights, and that applies to each and every member of this community. The March 11th incident that our police responded to that ultimately resulted in the shooting of Mr. Wilson, it was a tragic outcome. Loss of life is tragic. It's the last thing that I think anyone wants to see as the result of a police response, regardless of what might have precipitated it. Our council, the town, has previously issued a statement that supports full transparency in the ongoing investigations that are going on right now, not only on the part of the sheriff's office, but the district attorney's office as well. And we're going to continue to support that and request that information be shared with all of us in the community as it becomes available. So I wanted to add that, Madam Mayor, to what you had said previously.
Thank you.
I'm going to start out my report as I have monthly for the last year by just providing an update of what's happening on the COVID front. We are at long last, I think, seeing some good news in this regard. The number of new COVID cases that we are seeing here in the Danville area is down by about 90% in the last 2 months. So we got to the end of January. I think we hit a peak of something like 223 new cases in the last 14 years. And as of now, it's down to, I believe, 24 new cases. So that's good news. Our county health department has been working hard. As you know, they put out a goal, if you will. About 3 months ago, they wanted to administer 1 million vaccines before July 1st. They've now rolled that forward, accelerated that goal, and moved it up to Memorial Day, May 31. And we're now vaccinating anyone that is above the age of 16. As of today, we've seen almost 750,000 doses of the vaccine administered here in Contra Costa County. In the Danville area, that includes Danville, Blackhawk, the unincorporated areas east of town. We've had over 46,000 doses administered. So there is great progress being made there. I would just caution that I think successful rollout here in Contra Costa has a lot of people feeling as though the pandemic is over. We want to be vigilant. That's not the case. We're still seeing a resurgence in a lot of states right now. So now's not the time for any of us to be complacent. We want to continue to encourage everyone to follow the safety protocols, get their vaccines. When I reported to you last month, the county was still in the purple tier. Subsequently, we were able to move to the red tier, and now as of tomorrow, we're moving to the orange tier. More exciting news earlier today, the governor announced that as of June the 15th, the state is going to be retiring the current color-coded blueprint for a safer economy and is going to allow most sectors to reopen at or near full capacity. We don't know exactly what that means just yet, so we're going to continue to follow that very closely. The state has indicated that they will be keeping the mask mandate in effect indefinitely. So we're excited. Starting tomorrow, we're going to begin to see things like restaurants being able to offer indoor dining at 50% capacity. Bars are going to be able to reopen outdoors with modifications. Retail will be able to open further indoors with modifications. Offices will be able to do the same thing. Gyms, fitness centers will be able to reopen at 25% capacity, and churches will be allowed to reopen at 50% capacity. So all of this, of course, subject to the state's guidelines. Switching over onto the economic development front, you are continuing to receive weekly updates. We are continuing to work hard to assist and support our businesses through this in a number of ways. The recently delivered spring edition of our Live Locally newsletter highlighted a lot of these business efforts that have seen the town invest over $900,000 so far to help our businesses. Some examples of that include the Forward Focus Business Grant Program. This has been a very successful program so far. The town council earmarked $525,000 for the program to assist retail, restaurant, and personal services businesses with grants of up to $5,000 apiece to support their recovery efforts. So far, we have provided 124 grants that total almost $420,000. So we still have funds available and are still open for business in that regard. The Business Assistance Program that is providing one-on-one support to our businesses, including helping them assist with qualifying for funding opportunities that are out there at a state and federal level. We have 60 businesses that are actively participating in that. We're continuing to provide weekly updates to our businesses to communicate the resources that are available to them and keep them abreast of what's happening locally, regionally, and at the state and the federal level. We're continuing to offer free downtown employee parking permits, ability for businesses to participate in our online Danville Business Directory, and providing complimentary yard signs to promote the businesses. We're still working with Visit Tri-Valley on a new To Danville with Love regional marketing campaign that's really aimed at having residents reconnect with their communities and their region by rediscovering their hometown while supporting their local businesses, and continuing to put out messaging on various platforms to urge our residents to continue to support our local businesses by buying and shopping locally. And from what we can see, we want to thank our community because it seems like it's working. So that's going well, and want to thank Jill Bergman, Liana Adauto, and their team for their continued efforts to work with our local businesses and provide that support. On a financial front, the council's been getting regular updates of where things stand in the current year because of the changes that were necessitated to the town's budget as a result of COVID. I'm happy to say that we're continuing to meet and exceed our budget forecasts for the current year. where we did roll back our expenditures and transfers to offset an estimated $5 million revenue loss due to the pandemic, which has required us to reduce services and staffing in all areas. Our work now is well underway to prepare the draft 21-22 operating budget and capital improvement program that will be presented to the council for the council's consideration in May, with adoption of the budget and the CIP planned for June. We do expect in the 21-22 budget to see some recovery from 2021, where our revenue numbers did take a big hit that was attributable to COVID. And we're looking forward to using the experiences that we've gained in the past year to look for ways of delivering better service under the pandemic. The $1.9 trillion American Recovery Act that was signed by the president, the town is eligible to receive up to $8.3 million in funding due to that act, which is good news. We are still waiting for some additional enabling language from the Treasury that is going to tell us in greater detail what these funds can be used for. So we will be tracking this and addressing it really as a separate issue from the 21-22 operating budget. Legislatively, the Council's Legislative Committee is continuing to meet monthly. They met last on March the 23rd. The focus of these meetings has been on supporting legislative efforts that assist with pandemic recovery, and also on trying to focus, trying to limit new legislation that impacts our ability to make local land use decisions. Over the past decade, the statewide gap between housing demand and supply has really widened, especially with housing that's affordable to a broader range of income levels. So I think that fact, combined with the course that's being charted in California right now, has really prompted our legislature to pass a number of bills that impact cities' scope of control as it pertains to housing and land use matters. So much of the effort this year is going to continue to focus on weighing in on the new housing legislation. We have weighed in support of Senate Bill 5, which is the statewide housing bond. Also Senate Bill 548, which would support the Valley Link project. And as was mentioned previously, Assembly Bill 988, sponsored by Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, that would provide mental health crisis intervention services and crisis care. We've also weighed in opposition to Senate Bills 6, 8, 9, and 10, all of which propose to reduce our scope of local land use authority related to residential development. We have also weighed in opposition to Assembly Bill 377, which would impose even further restrictions on local agencies related to the regulation of stormwater. So you can look forward to once again getting a comprehensive legislative update at your next meeting this month. The legislative portion of our website does contain a lot of information regarding the town's efforts and positions on various bills that are under consideration up in Sacramento. I've been asked about grants and earmarks. So I'll highlight that. We were just successful in receiving an award of highway safety improvement grant funds of $240,000 that we will use to be able to upgrade a number of our pedestrian crossings throughout the town. In response to requests that we received from Congress members DeSaulnier and Swalwell, we've submitted applications that total $4.85 million from earmarks for funding the Diablo Road Trail, traffic signal upgrades throughout the town, and Iron Horse Trail crossings throughout town. Moving on to HCD, the RENA process, the housing element. Council has had a number of discussions about this, even in just the past month. I think, as I mentioned just a moment ago, the direction that our state is headed housing-wise, I've touched on. Danville has tried to actively advocate for policies that call for balancing regional jobs, housing, and transportation needs, while preserving local decision-making ability to make sure that we, like all cities, can address housing challenges in ways that are compatible with our community character. We are moving forward with the outreach and engagement efforts related to the 23 through 30 housing element process that we've discussed previously with the council. The upcoming housing element update is going to present a tall challenge for Danville for a couple of reasons. The first being that the town has been assigned a large number of housing units to plan for over the next year. In fact, 4 times the number from the last housing element cycle. So we go from 557 housing units to 2,241 units. And then secondly, a significant majority of those units have to be planned to be affordable to low and very low income levels. So for these reasons, we're going to continue to reach out to the community to try to engage everyone in this process with the goal of coming up with what we hope will be the best possible approach and outcome for Danville. In development services, we've got a lot of activity going on right now in building services. We're continuing to see and experience a high level of permit activity. Planning, as I mentioned, we're starting work on the outreach program for the 23 through 30 housing element. As a reminder, we have to have an adopted housing element to submit to the state by January of 2023. On the transportation front, our work is continuing on developing the new townwide bicycle master plan. Engineering and capital improvement program wise, the storm drain master plan that was started earlier this fiscal year is still ongoing. The Diablo Road Trail project is moving forward. We've selected an environmental consultant to work on that. The new footbridge going across San Ramon Creek at the Danville Green has now been set, and work is ongoing with finishing the approaches and the railings on either side. Work is continuing toward the completion of the first phase of our town office relocation project. And work is continuing on the design of the Lagonda Bridge replacement, working with flood control to talk about design options that'll meet their freeboard and clearance requirements. So our engineering staff is working right now in tandem with finance on their update of the 5-year CIP, and that along with the budget will be presented to council in May. Maintenance services. We are, of course, dealing with drought conditions this year. We've had less than 8 inches of rain on the season, which is a little bit more than a third of what the average annual rainfall is. With the arrival of spring, our staff is running through all of their irrigation inspections and repairs townwide to make sure that all of our systems are operational and ready to go. Our streets maintenance crew is right now starting with repainting all of the red curbs throughout town. So they do this about once every 3 years. It's a process that will take them about a month. They recently completed treating and fertilizing all of the roadside turf areas. And they have a number of small landscape rehab projects that are happening throughout town right now in areas including Greenbrook, Morning Home, and Danville Boulevard. I know that one of the questions that I was asked last month was the status of the new pickleball courts at Osage Station Park. Those improvements are being made this week, in fact, and they should be ready by next week. The Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission is going to be meeting next week. And among other things, they're going to be hearing a presentation from the Sports Alliance. The Alliance is proposing to add lighting to the one remaining unlit sports field that we have at Diablo Vista Park. And the commission will also be discussing potential renovations of the remaining shed structure that's adjacent to the Bounty Garden. I want to touch on recreation, arts, and community services as well. You know, they're continuing to do everything that they can do to provide the community with opportunities to decompress and sort of find the fun through all of this with the pandemic, both online and in person. Their services are the ones right now that are being the most directly impacted by the shift in the health orders. So I'm going to give you some updates, but I'm also going to tell you that it all continues to be very subject to change, and we're working on it as we go. On the arts front, we're looking forward to a new show at the gallery that's going to open in June. It's called Altered and Reimagined. What you're going to notice is that as part of that show, there will be a public exhibit that's going to be entitled Shroomin' Lumen. So you're going to see two rather large pieces of artwork, giant mushrooms, that are going to be on display outside of the theater, gallery, and the community center, and that'll be from Memorial Day through Labor Day. Music in the Park, we're looking right now at the possibility of doing a couple of events that'll be scheduled in July and in August at Oak Hill Park. We are currently planning to use a hybrid model. So what we would be doing would be painting circles on the grass, limiting in-person attendance, but doing that in combination with live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. Folks would have to register online if they wanted to be able to attend the concerts live. We have another Moonlight movie planned, or Moonlight movies, excuse me, that are planned at the Town Green. And again, these are going to be scheduled for July. And again, same idea, limited in-person registration with spray painted circles out there on the Town Green so that we can maintain appropriate spacing. We are working on another drive-in movie right now in partnership with Community Presbyterian Church. That'll be coming up at the end of June. And then working on some virtual Shakespeare play shops, working with the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival. So that's kind of exciting. Be looking to host a couple of virtual play shops. These are going to be on July the 16th, and they're going to be for elementary, junior high, and high school age students. Moving on to seniors, you'll be happy to know that Senior Bocce is going to be starting on April the 20th. It's going to go through June the 10th. The Senior Meal Program is still going strong. Sports and fitness and facilities wise, we are looking at doing some aquatics programming at San Ramon Valley High School this year, starting on June the 14th. It's going to include some aquatics camps, learn to swim classes, private lessons, some low impact fitness classes, and so on. And then with respect to facility rentals, we're currently offering picnic table and bocce court rentals. Youth and teen camps, we're planning to offer some traditional camps in 5 different locations. There'll be half day and full day camps. There'll be a variety of subject matter, art, sports, cooking, technology, etc. And we'll be having camps both in person and virtually. And we are still researching how we can provide other services, how the governor's June 15th changes will impact service delivery. As of right now, the Village Theater, we are still not able to hold full-scale productions inside the theater, but we are looking to promote the venue for filming presentations, small performances, live streaming, and the like. Senior softball, once we see how bocce goes, we're going to look at how we can safely accommodate senior softball. Our comedy series and preschool performances, looking at how we can hold live performances outdoors. And again, considering the use of the Town Green to stage these comedy events, as well as our preschool performance series for the summer. and other classes, programs, and rentals currently in the planning process, determining what kinds of programs and activities we can bring back into our facilities. But until then, we do have our spring 2021 activity guide that can be viewed on our town website. And we are encouraging people to click onto the website, click on Find the Fun, and you can see what kinds of programs and activities are available and what you can register for online. And then I'll just wrap up by saying that coming up, the council has a joint study session with the Heritage Resource Commission coming up later on this month, next week on the 12th. You've got a joint study session with the Senior Advisory Commission on April the 28th. And you will be holding budget study sessions to consider the draft 21-22 budget and CIP every Tuesday in May. Finally, the next Mayor's Town Talk program is going to be scheduled for May the 7th. More to come on the topics. So for all the latest news and information, all interested parties are welcomed to log on to our website at www.danville.ca.gov. Follow us there, subscribe to our latest updates on social media, and that will conclude my report.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments for Joe? I just wanted to say as well that if anybody's interested in the housing element, our last town talks was a great opportunity to kind of have it broken down for everybody and have some questions that might have been not answered before, and put more in layman's terms. In a sense, most people don't walk around saying, you know, hey, you want to talk about the housing element or arena. It's not your usual topic, but it definitely needs to be. So that's an opportunity to review that as well on the website. So thank you, Joe, for that thorough report. We definitely appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 8, which is our Street Smarts board member, Robert Storr, is going to be giving us an update.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan. Our Street Smarts program is a traffic safety education program aimed at our elementary and middle school kids in the district to help them understand pedestrian, cyclist, and driver behaviors. We're supported by the City of San Ramon, the Contra Costa County, San Ramon Valley Unified School District, and our fire department, the entire district, San Ramon Valley PTA, and Danville and San Ramon Police. Thank you, Alan Shields, for leading the way with this program as well. You know, the elementary and middle school programs have an online monthly program that goes through April. This month's theme is focused on pedestrian safety. And the details naturally each month. There is a video that they watch, and then they put together a puzzle, and then they can put their name in a hat, and they can win prizes based on the message. New this year is the Be Real video contest is going to be open to middle school and high school this year. And this year's theme is biking safety with family and friends. We will also have middle school and high schools. They'll be judged differently. Usually the mayor and the liaison judge the contest, and we're excited that the deadline is April 21st, and we should be seeing that sometime in May. I want to say thank you to Cap Bravo and Andrew Dillard for doing such a great job on behalf of our staff and being a solid member of the Street Smart. And the program continues to be funded by the federal state Rouse to School grant, which was $300,000. And we had a $15,000 grant by State Farm in 2020, and we had $10,000 from State Farm in 2021. So I'm proud to be part of the program, and thank you, Mayor, for putting me on as a liaison.
So, Robert, are they doing a book this year? So the kids are drawing for the book? Is that what it is, or is it something different this year?
It's in conversation, but because of COVID, naturally, we're trying to figure out what those next steps look like. I enjoyed the book. Wonderful. But, you know, we've come out of a COVID year, so there's a lot of conversation on the table right now. We just don't know the entire direction yet.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. There's always so many talented people in this area. So it's great to see these kids are just, I mean, I look at some of them, sometimes you see kindergarten, first grade. It's hard to believe that they're in kindergarten and first grade. It's amazing, the talent in this area. Okay, so next on the agenda is item 8.2 for Recycle Smart. And I'd like to say up into our last meeting, Newell Arnrich was our chair. Who ran the meetings. I mean, if you could hear some of the things that people were saying, I was just in awe of what a great job he's done as the chair of the Recycle Smart. So I'm going to go ahead and let our vice mayor do the report on that this evening. Newell?
Thanks, Mayor Morgan. Before I start, I just want to add my thanks to all those who gave public comment tonight. And also note that Chief of Police Alan Shields has been on this call since the beginning of this meeting, and thank him for listening in and appreciate his thoughtfulness as a fellow Danville resident raising his kids here, and his role that has served Danville well. And I know we'll be hearing much more from him as time goes on. I am delighted to report that Recycle Smart, which most of us don't know that, we see Republic Services is our outward face that comes by to pick up our trash cans, our recycle cans. Recycle Smart is a JPA, a Joint Powers Authority, which covers Danville, Blackhawk, Alamo, Rossmore, Walnut Creek, and La Miranda. So all of those cities each have 2 members on the board, and Contra Costa County has 2 members as well. We provide the services in the state of California for all recycling. And our waste recycling is very unique. It's not only on those things that can be recycled as we think about the plastic, glass, and cans. Also, everything in your green waste, including your food, goes to an anaerobic digester that gets completely recycled. It produces 2 things. It produces electricity, which goes back to the grid, and it also produces some of the best fertilizer, which you can get, and it's actually free to pick up. The past year has been challenging. However, I think to most of our residents, nobody saw anything different during COVID, and services continued. We have challenges. The state of California passed a law about 2 years ago, AB 1383, and it basically is about 2 paragraphs long talking about recycling. Well, somehow out of that came that they created a third entity, or an independent entity, which came up with a list as long as I think any of us have ever seen in terms of recycling programs, new programs that they want us to do. They're unfunded mandates. The good news is our associations with the JPA and Recycle Smart had already been doing a lot of those best practices. There are some challenges that we're going to face over the next 12 months in trying to implement some food, taking excess food from restaurants and a variety of places and trying to get those recycled, not through the traditional anaerobic digester, but back to people who could actually use those. We're working in partnership with several independent nonprofits who on a small scale have done a wonderful job. We're trying to figure out how to support them and scale them up to a much greater role in helping us achieve the recycling targets that the state has set. Even though we have a 10-year contract, and every 10 years we go through a new contracting process, coming up in about 3.5 years, we will be under a new contract, which will look very different than what we have as the laws have changed. The world of recycling has changed. We're supporting legislation now through Recycle Smart at the state level to insist that no manufacturer produces something that you can't recycle. Just because it's plastic doesn't mean it can be recycled. Just because it's metal doesn't mean it can be recycled. Same thing with wood. So I think some exciting things. It's also great to have our newest member, which is Renee Morgan, who I think has been on 2 meetings. She's on the Personnel Committee. I'm on the Legislative Committee. But also, lastly, I'd just like to say we have a new general manager at Republic Services, and Tony Mancini. And we've all had just a wonderful relationship for nearly 30 years with Tim Argenti, a Danville resident who had been the general manager through two different, probably almost 3 contracts, and has a personality and a way of doing business that has been so supportive in doing the best and the highest levels of recycling and best practices. And I think Tim has got a new replacement that we can actually say, you know, Tim, this guy's pretty good. His name is Tony Mancini. That's it. Thanks.
What a great report. Karen.
Just one question for either one of you is that we get information from Arizona where they have stopped accepting glass for recycling. And there's another item that slips my mind right now. Things that we probably were counting on for the next 3 years, no?
Yeah,
is that happening here?
Yeah, on some things, but not specifically on that. That has to do with the, it's on the other end of the recycling line. Fortunately, Mount Diablo Recycling still, they have the best product, the best, cleanest product out. They have not come back to us yet to tell us any changes. Down the road, there could be, but so far, you know, the notice that we gave to our residents, particularly about certain plastics and some types of mixed paper, those have not been able to be recycled, but the other products are. The market's getting a little bit better, but within the next 3 years, Karen, you may remember this.
Yeah.
Not everybody has access to anaerobic digesters. We had bought all the capacity that was in this area. Our contract ends in the 42 months. It's coterminous with that. So we are looking ahead how to lock that up now in advance. So we're in very good shape now, but the future has its challenges.
All right. Thank you. Thank you both.
And I know, Newell, you probably don't know this, but I have been on numerous personnel, closed sessions and 3 of the other meetings, but that doesn't matter. It's just, we're all working on this together. So it may seem like 2, but you've been on a lot more than that. So also, are there any town council updates? Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Oh, Dave.
Yes, I've got two areas I'd like to discuss. First, I want to applaud Mayor Morgan for her comments regarding the condemnation of anti-Asian hate, violence, and racism, and that this kind of behavior shouldn't be tolerated or accepted. I believe, as a town, that we should continue to highlight and celebrate the diversity of our town and affirm our commitment to protecting the human rights of all of our residents. So that's the first comment I would make. Secondly, I thank the community for their comments this evening. And I think there was a common theme and that was expressed, which is the area of mental illness. And whether we call it mental illness, whether we call it mental wellness, we know that post-pandemic that there are some challenges with changes in behavior. And I applaud the town for supporting and the Assemblywoman Rebecca Bauer-Cahan's bill and other bills and actions to address mental illness. I believe as a town and in talking with the community that we ought to be a lot more proactive. You know, how do we engage our community? How do we educate? How do we inform? And how do we really collaborate with county, state, and the community to come up with community-based solutions that make sense for us, but more importantly, be proactive and be responsive to the community during this time of need as we evolve and emerge from the post-pandemic. Thank you.
Appreciate those comments. Karen.
I just wanted to make the comment again, what beautiful time we've had at our farmers market is absolutely an incredible market. And that's one of the answers, Dave, to your question. Once we can do the farmers market again, people will come up and ask us some of these questions and have another place for us to have office hours to answer those questions. So I think, and especially for them to come out and shop and support our market. So thank you.
Any other comments? I'd like to say as well that, and in the meantime, since we can't be at farmers market, they can pick up the telephone, anybody at any time. We are available. Email us, give us a call. We're all here for you. I appreciate all the people that came out this evening and had, their concerns They spoke of their concerns, and we all have those concerns as well. And so we appreciate all of you coming out this evening. And our hearts go out to the family that was involved, and for Tyrell's family. It's, as Joe mentioned, it's definitely a tragedy, and it's something that we would never, ever want to have happen, especially in front of all those people. So in closing of this meeting, I'd like to just say, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, stay positive, test negative. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.